Awesome. We'll make a start now. So hopefully you all can hear and you can see the presentation now. My name's Nathan. I'm the basketball development manager here at McKinnon. Thank you for joining us on a Wednesday evening and going through some of this. This is our representative program. So this is an overview of what representative basketball is, what it is about at McKinnon, and some of the costs and some of the expectations about joining and getting your kid involved. A couple of housekeeping things. Obviously, you saw everyone's on mute. Everyone's got their videos off. That's great. If you have any questions at any point, throw them in the chat. And at the end of the presentation, we'll answer as many of them as possible. This will be about ideally new players coming into the association. If you're looking to try and then for the ADP and HPP, that will be at the 8 o'clock. So there'll be two different groups with that just to make sure. So we'll get started now. Awesome. So a little bit about what representative basketball is. So junior rep is an elite competition where players will have the opportunity to represent McKinnon Cougars at an under 12 to under 21. They run in two age brackets until they get to 21. So under 12s, 14s, 16s, 18s, and 21s against other Victorian associations on a Friday night under the umbrella of Basketball Victoria. The representative program is aimed at players who are committed to developing their basketball skills and knowledge of the game. So they're for kids who are passionate about playing basketball and about the sport and want to go a little bit further than the grassroots domestic, which we'll go over some of the commitments and some of that a little bit later. McKinnon Basketball holds an extensive tryout period in October each year, with successful players from there being selected into a team for the following VJBL season. Currently, that is the plan. Obviously, things change with the current landscape that we're all in. We're still waiting to confirm dates, as most just about everyone is right now. So that's the current plan. Obviously, we're as flexible as anything, and we're trying to work towards the best, safest start date that we can as well. Part of the benefits of joining the Cougars, we have a development-focused environment that aims to maximize the talent and have fun and enjoy it at the same time. Part of developing leads to fun and leads to getting better and leads to a passion for sport and for further opportunities and the next step. So we really have that long-term focus with what we do. When a kid comes in at 10, it's not about winning straight away. It's about, can we get that kid enjoying, developing, getting better, and finding a passion and a love for the sport. That's where representative basketball can really foster that. From there, we have opportunities to play in the best junior competition in Australia. They often say the competition in Victoria in basketball is super competitive and super deep, and it's a great chance to play against some of the best kids that you're seeing. Previous NBA guys like Ben Simmons, Dante Exum, they were, just to name a couple, played through the VJBL system. And they're great opportunities for that for some of them. Coaching from some of Victoria's best and brightest. We have some great young, enthusiastic coaches, as well as coaches who continue to give back and have plenty of experience from all different kinds of levels. So we do have one of the best coaching programs. We're led by Darren Anderson, who's our girls director of coaching, and Jared Keyser, who's our boys director of coaching, who are two of the best and most enthusiastic to get coaches developing and players developing and getting involved. From there, we have player pathways at state level representation and senior elite competition. So we have connections. So some of our kids will go to state tryouts, and we'll also have a senior elite competition, which is our youth league, which is a 23 and under, and our senior competition, which is our top team, which is open age. And then you get to be part of a community, an opportunity to make new friends for life. I know personally, when I was growing up playing rep, some of my best friends I ever had were teammates I had when I was 13, 14, 15 years old. Mostly because we had a shared interest. We both loved basketball, so it kind of led to then further friendships and further development through that. A little bit about the Cougars culture. So this has been designed in collaboration with our DFCs and our association with this, but we respect all. That's the first thing. We want to try and make sure that we respect our players, ourselves, our coaches, our referees, our parents, our venues, that we are looked upon in the community as being a respectful organization. Our commitment to be committed to the team and the club and work together as one. If one succeeds, we all succeed. So we really want to try and be unified in that approach. The development and competitiveness challenge one another to grow and be better through trainings and games. We do have a long-term development overrides short-term success, both on and off the court. It's not a sprint. There, we want kids and people having a passion for the sport for a long time, whether they go on to be professional players or whether they come back and become referees, become coaches, become score bench people, become volunteers. Whether it's getting back into domestic and coaching in that environment, we really want to foster some of that development with it and find that passion for sport, while also being able to provide that pathway for athletes as they start going through. Part of the commitment for the rep program is a little different to domestic, where you might train for an hour a week and play a game once a week. We have 2 trainings per week with 1 game per week during school terms. So usually we'll train for about 3 hours, 2.5 hours in a week. So usually they're about an hour and 15, hour and a half, as well as the game on the Friday night. For games, players are usually expected to arrive 30 minutes prior to the game and 15 minutes prior to the start of their training, just so they can understand some of that. And that's a respect for time and a respect for the venue and making sure that we're ready to go when that start time hits so we can make the most of that session. Players, same thing, we respect the program, must wear game uniform on game days and training uniform on training days. And this includes the McKinnon Cougars warm-up top for that. We want to look the part with it. A little bit about the fees and pricing. So registration is $530, including GST, which includes the training court hire, the program admin that comes to the back end, a tournament entry, VJBL registration fees, that covers that for the 11 months. It usually runs from October till about August is the previous schedule. As things start changing, obviously in the current landscape, we'll find out more and more as we go. We have door entry on game days, which is usually $2 to $4. There should be nothing new if you've come from a domestic environment. Usually it sits at about $3, but it depends on the venue and that timing. And then there's a team sheet fee of $10 per player per game. That's paid to the venue that you're playing at for that Friday night. So if you're at home at one of our venues at GSAC or Bentley, you pay it there. If you're out down at Frankston, you pay it there. A little bit about the uniform cost so you have an understanding. The complete uniform set is $205, which includes the game day uniform, the warm-up top, reversible training singlet, and training shorts. On top of that, while we still have our rep program and we go through from under 12s to 21s and we still have the same commitment through those, we have additional programs that help foster development. We understand that people at different steps and different stages in their playing have different commitments that they want to and different goals they want to fulfill. So part of that is these are 2 new programs that are coming in. We're going to speak to them a little bit later tonight. The first one is our ADP program, which is an accelerated development program, which is aimed at under 12s and under 14s. This is a 1-hour session once a week. Sometimes if they choose to join the skills and shooting, they might do 2 hours in the week extra. Part of this is designed to help foster that development and develop a skill set for them so they can have long-term success in their career. From that, we have our high performance program coming in for under 16s, under 18s and 21s. This is for athletes that are really serious about their basketball, who want to go a little bit further, who want to do a little more commitment. So part of that is we've designed a holistic program that's both elite for basketball and for athletic development through these stages. So we've partnered with Core Advantage, as well as being able to provide 2 on-court sessions with these athletes each week. Part of this we can kind of go through, but we've made it as cost effective as possible. So if you're in that session a little bit later, you'll see what I mean by that. From that, if you have any questions, you have my email on the screen. This presentation is all on the website with the information booklet, which can be found there. If you have questions about the program as a whole, and particularly the costs, expectations, anything like that, you can email me or speak to me. If you need to speak to one of our DOCs, their email addresses are up on there. This particularly towards coaching or tryouts or any sort of expectation that, you feel free to shoot it to them. They're great at getting back to you. Otherwise, I'll leave it there and I'll just quickly check the chat to see if there's any questions. And if you don't have any questions, I'll give it a minute or 2. If you have any questions, you can throw it here, but otherwise, that's it for today. And that's an overview of our VJBL representative program. Awesome. If you do have any questions, throw them in the chat. Otherwise, thank you for joining us. We'll be able to go through that. So we have a few questions with this. how has this program been impacted going forward by the restrictions? So we've kind of, to give you an overview, we got locked down back in March. It was round 1, so our season kind of finished. Our season didn't really get started, sorry. But essentially we had to cancel that season, and we're going through a brand new process again for our VJBL 2020-21 season. So essentially we're waiting to hear from our governing body, Basketball Victoria, to find out what's next once they get their government to kind of tick over. The plan is still expected to start November for the first grading phase. That's assuming everything goes the way it should go. Obviously, there's a lot of things that are out of our control, and we've done our best to prepare and make sure we're ready to go. But there are still things that unfortunately are out of our hands. Next question. Do you need to be in rep to join the programs you just mentioned? Yes. So to join those ADP and HPP programs, you need to be a current VJBL athlete with us. Part of that is if you get selected with that, we want to provide more opportunities for these athletes to further assist in their development. Games are played on Fridays, so typically under 12s will be the first game off, usually about 6:40, 6:30, maybe 7:30. And then it kind of goes through the night till under 21s, and usually 18s and 21s are the last teams to start their game. They usually tip off about 9:40 at the latest. And then, yeah, that's kind of the expectation of that. Is there any expectation for the level of new players? If they've never played basketball before, can they still enroll and get the benefit from the program? They absolutely can. They can come to tryouts. So if they're feeling like they want to get involved with this, they can. It can sometimes be a little bit of a shock to the system, particularly if they haven't done domestic basketball first. That being said, if you come down to tryouts, we can still have a conversation, and we're pretty open and transparent with this stuff in terms of if it's right, if it's wrong. The last thing we want to do is ever hinder a child's confidence and particularly passion for playing sport. So we really want to make sure we're facilitating that. And sometimes it might be waiting a year, sometimes it might be come down now. So that's something we can talk about as the time comes. Also, what is the breakdown of age group teams and what night do they train? So currently our girls will have a program session on a Monday night, and our boys will have a program session on a Tuesday night, and then their second practice will be dependent on coach and court availability. It's usually a Wednesday or Thursday. So we try not to train on the weekends. It's two nights a week for that. My son will be 9 next year. Is there any 9-year-olds in the under 12s division? If he's 9 next year, he'd be considered a double bottom age kid. There is potentially, I know this year we had five double bottom age boys and I think 2 double bottom age girls. It is something that's available, but again, if you're a little unsure whether or not they're ready or they need to wait a year, I still recommend coming down to tryouts and having a conversation with myself, Jared, or Darren, and just discussing whether or not it's right just yet. We do have our Rep Ready program that will come in and return in 2021, which might be an avenue if they're not quite ready and they just want to kind of do the one practice a week. What's the tryout process like? So you register for tryouts. So you'll register your child for tryouts. You'll have the dates, you'll have certain sessions. You come down to the first tryout, sign in. They get a chance to get on court, start playing. We generally go through 4 different tryouts, so 4 different sessions over like a 2-week period. From each session, there's a level of communication that comes from it, so that way we feel prepared and we can deliver. From that, teams are selected, and they kind of start building the base for the next 10 months. That's usually the structure that we facilitate. If things go to plan, that will be what we'll be doing. What does the team sheet fee cover, and how late in the evening is the training, and how many rep teams per age group? Really good questions. The team sheet fee covers the referees on the evening and the court hire for that evening. There might be something missing off the top of my head for that, but those are the 2 things I do remember. How late in the evening is the training? Depends on the age group. Again, we structure it where our under 12s will be the first ones off to train. So usually they'll be 4:30, 5 o'clock start. Our under 14s, under 16s may start at 6:30 and they might train for an hour. And then under 18s, under 21s will probably start at 8 o'clock. So they're usually the last ones to train. But again, it just really depends on the court availability and the structure with that. In terms of number of teams per age group, that changes. It works kind of like a pyramid scheme. So our under 12s, we'll try and facilitate as many teams as possible within that, within reason. It obviously depends on our coach availability. We do rely on volunteer coaches through the program. So if we don't have coaches, it's very hard for us to facilitate that team. We run from usually under 12s, we'll feature 4 to 6 teams. Under 14s previously last season, we had 6 on the boys and 7 on the girls. Under 16 boys and girls both had 4 teams. Our under 18s, we like 3 to 4 on both sides as well. And our 21s is usually 1 to 2 teams. Just to give you an overview of what it was previously, but we make that decision as we get closer to tryouts and who's interested in that. Awesome. Awesome. It seems like the questions have slowed down. Hopefully I've addressed as many of them as possible, made it as clear. You got my email on that. If you need it again, you can always find it on the website. Go to the mckinnonbasketball.org. You'll be able to find that and shoot me an email. You can give me a phone call as well. I'm happy to answer any questions, any concerns you might have about it, particularly as we start getting closer. But if there's no more questions, I'll leave it there for this evening. Thank you for joining, and yeah, look forward to seeing you all once we get back on the courts. Thank you. Sally, yes, this will be made available online. So this will come up in the next 24 hours, as well as the PDF.